everybody, it's Teresa. Welcome to my channel. I'm going to make a tubular herringbone bracelet today. Very, very easy stitch, very beginner friendly. Not complicated at all. I have my 8-pound fire line and smoke. For my beads, I have, these are 8-ohs, Miyuki Opaque Turquoise Luster, Miyuki Opaque Dark Red, and then I have some Miyuki Metallic Dark Bronze. You can do this with any size beads, 11-ohs, 8-ohs, Toho. You can mix up the sizes. You can go from smaller beads to larger beads. There's just all kinds of things you can do with tubular herringbone. I'm going to put some leather down the center of it and do a button and loop closure. So I've got my Exotica 1mm dark brown leather. And I've got a little button here, a little shank button. I've got 2 size 11 tulip beading needles. I'm just going to use one, but I always have an extra in case I drop one and can't find it. I'm using my crochet hook. I'm not going to crochet, but I'm going to hold this. I'm going to do my beading around it because sometimes it helps with these tubular stitches. You don't have to have this. I just use it because it helps a little bit. The only thing I'm using for tools are my chain nose pliers, and all I'm doing with those is just to flat down the end of my fire line so I can get it through the eye of my needle. And of course I have my scissors to cut my fire line and my leather. And I think that's all. So hold on, let me get some of my beads poured out and I'll be back. Okay, I've got some of my beads poured out here, and I'm just going to start out with the beads. We'll do the leather here in a little bit. I'm going to start this out just like I started out the flat herringbone bracelet that I did with ladder stitch. I'm going to pick up 4 of my red beads. And I've got a stop bead on here, and I've only left about a 6-inch tail, I guess. Just enough to sew in because I'm not going to have to come back at the end to put on a clasp because I'm going to do the leather. So I've got 4 of my 8-ohs, red 8-ohs on here. And you don't have to do 3 different colors. You can do 1 color, you can do 10 colors, whatever you want to do. Doesn't matter. I'm going to do a little color blocking here. I'm going to go back through my first 2 8-ohs. And that sets my beads next to each other there. And now I'm going to sew back through them to reinforce. Because it's easier if your base stitch is nice and tight when you start these things. I'm just going to sew back through all the beads again. We'll come back down through these 2. And I'm going to pick up 2 more. And I'm coming out the bottom of these 2 8-ohs. I'm going to go on the top of the same 2 8-ohs. Pull my thread through. And then I'm going to go back up through those again and reinforce those again. Now I'm going to pick up 2 more. I'm going to do 6 in total. So I've got three sections here right now. I'm going to do 3 more. 3 more sets of 2. Just going to reinforce as I go. do 2 more here. Coming out the bottom, I'm going to go back in the top. Reinforce them again. Now I just need one more set of 2. I'm coming out the top, I'm going to go on the bottom. Okay, now that that's just exactly how we started the flat herringbone. 6 rows of with 2 sets of 2 beads. Now to turn it into a tubular shape, all I'm going to do is I'll move my stop bead out of the way here. All I'm going to do is fold it together like that. I'm coming out the bottom of these 2 red ones. I'm just going to go through the bottom of these 2 red ones. I'm just going to sew it together. And I'm going to go back down through these 2. And I'm going to do that several times to get it nice and sewed together. And I think I put a little bit too much thread on this needle. It's taken me a while to pull it through. And it's wanting to knot on me. But it was just wrapped around itself, which is most of the time what it is. Just want to get this good and sewed together. Now I'm going to come back through this way because my stop bead is coming out the bottom and I want to be at the side that my stop bead is not, because it's probably going to get in the way enough as it is. Now I'm going to take my crochet hook, and like I said, you don't have to use this, or if you want to use something, it doesn't have to be a crochet hook. It can be anything, a pin, a wooden dowel, a drinking straw, whatever you want to put up through there. And I don't always use something, but I thought it might help me hold it steadier to show you what I'm doing here if I use the crochet hook. So now I'm going to start my herringbone. And just like with the flat herringbone, you always pick up 2 beads. I'm going to pick up 2 of my red 8/0s. I'm coming out the top of this red 8/0. I'm just going to go down 1 bead into the 8/0 right next to it. I'm going to pull it through, and you want to make sure that your beads land with the holes facing up like that. Now I'm coming out the bottom of this 8/0. Coming out the bottom of this 8/0. I'm going to go up through this 8/0, the next one in line there. Pull my thread through. I'll spin my work. I'm going to pick up 2 more red 8/0s. I'm coming out the top of this red 8/0. I'm going to go in just this one red 8/0. Pull my thread down, and if you're using something, you need to be careful to make sure it doesn't get caught around whatever you're using, because it might get caught like that. You want to make sure that doesn't happen, which mine is about to do. Make sure your holes are facing up, and sometimes they're not, and you just have to fiddle with them and get them to sit the way they need to. Now I'm coming out the bottom of this 8/0. I'm going to go in the bottom of this 8/0 one right next to it. And now I'm going to pick up 2 more red 8/0s. And I'm going to go down this 8/0 next in line. And my thread got caught around my crochet hook. So you got to watch for that. And make sure your beads are sitting with the holes up. Now here's where we do our step up. My thread is coming out this 8/0 right here. I need to go across to this 8/0 and up both of them. Like that. Pull my thread through. Now I'm going to do 3 rows of my red, and then 1 row of my bronze, and then 3 rows of my turquoise, and back and forth like that. I just wanted to get a little strip of bronze in there because my leather is brown. And I mean, like I said, you don't have to do that. You can do it all in one color. You can do a bunch of colors, whatever you want to do. So I'm going to pick up 2 bronze. I'm coming out this top of this 8/0. I'm going to go down the next 8/0 in line. Pull my thread through. Don't let it get hooked around my crochet hook. And make sure the beads are pointing up. Now I'm going to go from this bottom of this 8/0 up through this 8/0, the next one in line. I'm going to pick up 2 more bronze. Go from the top of this 8/0 into the top of this 8/0. Make sure your beads fall with the holes pointing up. Now I'm going to go into the bottom of this 8/0. Pick up 2 more bronze. Go from the top of this 8/0 down into this 8/0. And now I'm back to where I need to step up. So I'm coming out the bottom of this red 8/0. I need to go into the bottom of this red 8/0 and up both beads. Now I'm going to start with my turquoise. Now, when you do these tubular stitches or spiral stitches or any kind of those, it can be hard to see where you need to step up. I know it was for me when I first started, and it still is sometimes. It can be hard to see where your step up is. So what I do sometimes, I know I'm going to be adding 6 beads every round. So I just take 6 of my beads and just lay them out apart from the rest of my beads. And then when I get all those beads used up, I know I'm at my step up point. So I've got my 6 little blue or turquoise beads here. I'm going to pick up two of them. I'm going to go from the top of this bronze bead into the top of the next bronze bead. Pull my thread through, and I see those are not wanting to sit straight up, so sometimes you just have to pull them out and pull them back down, and they'll sit straight up. So now I'm going to go from the bottom of this bronze one to in through the bottom of this bronze one and out. Pick up 2 more in my little pile of 6 here. I'm coming out the top of this bronze bead. I'm going to go into this bronze bead right next to it. caught around my crochet hook, which it really just intends to do. Now see, those are not sitting straight up either, so I'm just going to pull them out and pull them back down. And sometimes you have to do that a few times. Sometimes you just have to fiddle with it with your needle to get them to set the way they're supposed to. Now I'm coming out the bottom of this bronze bead. I'm going to go into the bottom of this bronze bead. Now I'm going to pick up my last 2 beads in my little pile here, so I know that my next, when I put these in, I got to do my step up. So I'm going to go from the top of this bronze bead into this bronze bead. Pull my beads down. Now they're not sitting with the holes facing up, so I got to fool with them there. Get them to do that. Now I'm at my step up. So I'm going to go from the bottom of this bronze bead into the bottom of this bronze bead and up through both beads. Now I'm going to do another row of my turquoise, so I'm going to lay out 6 of my turquoise beads here, away from my others. I'm going to pick up 2 turquoise beads. I'm going to go from the top of this turquoise bead into the top of this turquoise bead. And they're not sitting straight up, so I'm going to pull them out and pull them back down. Now I'm going to go into the bottom of this turquoise bead. I'm going to do 2 more turquoise beads out of my little pile of 6 here. I'm going to go from the top of this turquoise bead into the top of this turquoise bead. And they're not sitting the way they should, so I'm going to pull them back out and pull them back down. Fiddle with them with my needle. They get twisted sometimes. Like that. Now I'm going to go from the bottom of this blue, of this turquoise bead, up through the bottom of this turquoise bead. I'll spin it around. I'm going to pick up my last 2 turquoise beads in my little pile here. So I know this is when I'm going to do my step up. So I'm coming out of the top of this turquoise bead. I'm going to go into the top of this turquoise bead. Arrange them so that the holes are sitting up. And you'll see, just like with the flat herringbone, these little stacks are not connected, but they will be when we do our next round. So I'm coming up the bottom of this blue turquoise bead. I'm going to go across to this blue turquoise bead and go up both, and that's my step up. Now I'm going to do 1 more row of my turquoise, so that's, I'm going to lay out 6 more of my little turquoise beads here in a little pile. I'm going to pick up 2 of my turquoise. I'm going from the top of this turquoise to the top of this turquoise. Pull the beads down, make sure they're sitting with their holes facing up. Now I'm going to go from this at the bottom of this turquoise bead right across up to the next turquoise bead. Now I'm going to pick up 2 more turquoise beads out of my little pile of 6 here, and I'm going to go from the top of this turquoise down into the next turquoise. Make sure that my beads sit with their sitting up there with their holes facing up. Now I'm going to go from this turquoise bead across to the next turquoise bead in line. Thread keeps trying to get wrapped around itself here. Let me. Definitely pulled off more thread than I should have. Hold on, I'll get this fixed and I'll be back. Okay, I thought I'd show y'all what I'm going to do to fix this mess. I've got an actual knot this time and I can't get it out. So all I'm going to do is it will move up my thread here. So I'm just going to move it all the way up to my needle. Just keep pulling and move it all the way up to my needle. Just pulling my needle through as I go. Just pull it all the way till I get to the end, or get to the needle. I'm almost there. And I'm just going to cut it off here and rethread my needle. I have not found any magic way to undo that kind of a knot and keep from having to just cut it off and rethread your needle. I'm sure y'all didn't need me to show you how to do that, but I just wanted to show you that I have been doing this for many, many years, and that happens to everybody. It's nothing to be concerned about. It. Of course, it won't happen if you don't start off with way too much thread like I apparently have. So I'm just going to rethread my needle here. Okay, now I'm gonna, so I've got two little turquoise beads left in my pile here. So I know I'm about ready to do my step up after this stitch. So I'm gonna go from the top of this turquoise bead into the top of the next turquoise bead. Make my little beads sit up like they're supposed to. So now I'm at my step up. So I'm coming out the bottom of this second turquoise bead here. I'm going to go into the bottom of this second turquoise bead over here and go up both. Now I'm going to do a row of my bronze. So I'm going to take 6 of my bronze beads and lay them in a pile away from the others. I'm going to pick up 2 bronze beads. I'm going from the top of this turquoise bead. I'm going to go into the bottom of the the top of the next turquoise bead in line. Make them sit with the holes facing up. Now I'm going to go into the bottom of this turquoise bead, the next one in line. It's helpful if you hold your work like that. It's going to be loose because herringbone is just a loose stitch, but if you hold it as you go, especially if you're not holding it around something like this, if you hold it as you go, it helps. So now I'm going to pick up 2 more bronze beads out of my little pile here, and I'm going from the top of this turquoise bead through the top of this turquoise bead. Pull my beads down, arrange them so that the holes are facing up. Now I'm going to go from the bottom of this turquoise bead up through the next turquoise bead in line. Now I'm going to pick up my last two turquoise beads in my pile. My last two bronze beads in my pile here, so I know I'm about to do my step up. So I'm going from the top of this turquoise bead through the top of this turquoise bead. Pull my beads down, arrange them so that the holes are facing up. Sometimes you have to do it with your needle. They don't want to cooperate. Now I'm going to do my step up. So I'm going to go across here, and I'm going to go up through the bronze, or the turquoise bead and the bronze bead. Pull my thread through. Now I'm going to do 3 more rows of the red, and then 1 of the bronze and 3 of the blue, and I'm just going to go back and forth like that until I get the length I want. And then I'll be back and show you how I'm going to end it off. Okay, this is what I've got so far. And surprisingly, even though I pulled off way too much thread to begin with, I'm running out of thread, so I'm going to have to add some. So I'm just going to leave this on here for now. And I've got a new thread threaded with another long piece of thread and a stop bead. And I've just left about a 6-inch tail, just enough to sew in later. I'm going to come down here in my project, anywhere, doesn't matter. Put my needle through. This is pretty much like I always add thread to everything. I'm going to pull this through until my stop bead stops it. And I'm just going to sew up until I'm coming out this bead that my old thread is coming out right here. Just going to sew straight up this line here. I'm coming out that bead where my old thread is coming out. Now I'm going to take my old thread, and I'm just going to go down through here and tie 3 half-inch knots like I always do. I'm coming out the top of this bronze bead. I'm just going to go down the next bronze bead and down a few more beads. I'm going to grab a thread bridge here and go through my loop, slowly guide my knot down. I'm going to go through a few more beads. Grab a thread bridge here, go through my loop, guide my knot down slowly, go through a few more beads. Grab a thread bridge here, go through my loop, pull my thread down slowly, and now I'm just going to go through a few more beads to get away from my last knot. And I'm going to cut off this old thread. Now I have my new thread, and I'm just going to continue on with it. And then when I get done, I'm going to take that stop bead off there and sew it in just like I sewed that one in. And then I'm going to come down here, when I get to my length, I'm going to come down here and take the stop bead off this and sew it in like I just did that one. And then I'll come back and show you how I'm going to end off this end here. So I'll be back in a little bit. Okay, I've got the length that I want to have here, and I've sewed in all my little tails and things that I had stop beads on. Now I'm going to finish off this end here. I'm coming out the top of this red bead, and see, these stacks are not connected. So I need to connect them, and I want it to look like the end here where I started with the ladder stitch. So I'm going to I'm coming out of this top of this red bead. I'm just going to go down 2. And then I'm going to go up these 2. And then I'm going to come back down these 2 that oh, you can't see me, that I came out of originally. And then I'm going to go back up these 2. Then I'm going to turn it around here, I'm going to go down these two and up these two next to it, and then back down these two. I'm just stitching these together at the end so they'll be connected. Back up these two, and I'm going to flip it around here. I'm going to go, coming out of this one, I'm going to go down these two, up these two next to it, back down these two, back up these two, and now I've got them all sewed together there so that they look like my other end. Now I'm just going to go down through and sew this thread in like I did when I added thread, tie 3 half-inch knots, and then I'll come back and we'll put our leather through it. Okay, I've got all my little ends sewed in and ended off and everything. And there's a lot of different ways you can end these off. You can use one of those glue-on end caps and put it on the end if you want to. They're real easy to sew together into a bangle. If you wanted to make a bangle, you could put a clasp on the end. You can put a large bead at the end, or you could put a bead cap if you had a large bead cap on the end and sew that in. I like to put something down the middle of it because, especially with these bigger beads, it kind of collapses in like that. And if I put something through the middle of it like leather, it kind of keeps the round shape more. I think you can probably put memory wire down it. I've never done that, but I'm sure you can. But I'm going to use leather, and I showed you at the first of the video I had 1mm leather, but I've switched it for my 1.5mm leather. I did not think 1.5mm would go through it, but it will, and I like that better because it will fill it up more. So I'm using the 1.5. It's the same brand and everything. It's just 1.5 instead of 1mm. So I'm going to put my leather through the shank of my button here, and then I'm going to find both ends. This is about a 25-inch piece of leather. I'm going to find both ends here. I'm going to pull my button down to the center of my leather, like that. And then I'm just going to tie an overhand knot. I'm going to pull it down here close to my button, but I don't want to get it too close because I want my button to still be able to move. Take my awl here and help me guide it a little bit. Just fiddle with it until I get it close enough, but not too close. I think my leather has gotten up over my shank there, and we don't want that. There we go. Just pull it up and under my button there and tighten both pieces of the leather to tighten my knot. Okay, there, now my button can still move. Now I'm just going to take this end and I'm going to feed it through my tube here I've made. Like that. And now I'm going to tie an overhand knot down here. I said this would look pretty if you had maybe a big bead cap or something to put on the end. I don't have one big enough I don't have one that the holes are big enough that this leather would go through. I don't want this to be too tight because I want my little tube here to be able to, I don't want my button right up against here. I want it to have a little room there. So I'm going to put my knot about here. Of course, you could do this. You can make this long enough to make a necklace. I've done that a lot of times. You could make it a really long rope, and maybe make it with 11/0 and make a really long rope and have a necklace and dangle a pendant off of it. There's lots of different things you can do. Now I'm going to make my loop for my button to go through. So I'm going to come down here and see how big I need that to be. Probably about there. Just tie another overhand knot. Make sure my button will still go through. That's good, I think. Now I'm just going to pull on both pieces of my leather to tighten up my knot. I'll take my pliers and help me. Make sure it'll still go through before I cut it off. It will. There. So I'm just going to cut off the ends of my leather here. And I didn't get my GS Hypo Cement out, but I'll put some GS Hypo Cement on this knot here. Make sure it doesn't come loose. I don't think it would anyway, but it never hurts. So now I'm going to clean up my beads and I'll be back. Okay, so there's my herringbone and leather bracelet. It's a really simple stitch. There's a lot of this is just simple color blocking, but there's a lot of pretty designs you can do. I will eventually do twisted herringbone. I really like twisted herringbone. It's really pretty. But there's just so much you can do with herringbone. Like I said, you can go from smaller beads to larger beads, back down to smaller beads. You can use it as a rope for a necklace. There's just all kinds of things you can do with it. As always, thank you all so much for joining me today. I really appreciate those of you who have subscribed to my channel and watched my videos and liked and commented on my videos. I have a website where I sell my jewelry. It's Teresa's Handmade Jewelry, and I'll put a link to it in the description box below in case you're interested, along with a link to my Facebook and Instagram and my email. If you haven't, I'd really love it if you'd subscribe and hit the notification bell so you're notified when I upload a new video. So until next time, I hope you all have a great day. Take care.